Wow, it's a beautiful good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us tonight on Occupy Today. It's a beautiful evening. It's a good evening. We've had a fantastic week the last week, and I hope that you also have had a fantastic week. This is Occupy Today only on Hope TV Kenya, and we look forward to having an amazing interaction with you. Feel welcome, and it's exciting just to know that the Lord God is with us. The Bible in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 10 tells us that he who provides seed for the sower and food for the hungry is our God. And I can tell you we're talking about seeds tonight. We are talking about seeds tonight, so I'm excited and I just want to welcome you. I want to welcome every last one of you to be part of this show. It's very exciting to see that we're coming to the end of March. Can you imagine? We are already done with January, we are done with February. This is the last Sunday of March, and I can tell you God has been gracious to us. He's been a father, and he continues to be gracious to us. So most welcome. Let's enjoy the show together, Occupy Today, where we inspire entrepreneurs. We inspire people in business and aspiring business people to do businesses the kingdom way, to do businesses the God way, and to be inspired, to be built up, even as they do this for the glory and for the honor of God. So most welcome. My name is Kajuju Gisharo. I am a growth coach in the areas of personal development, leadership development, as well as entrepreneurship and innovation. So karibuni sana. I'm looking forward to having interaction from you through your questions, through your comments. We are here to do business God's way and to do it only on Occupy Today as we talk about farming. Farming, where every seed is a story or has a story. You can imagine every one of the seeds that you see. A bean seed, a maize seed, potato seed, even the seed that goes into the animals. There is a story that it tells. And so most welcome. I have a guest in studio tonight. His name is Arcadius Anubi.
Thank you.
A, amazing. So karibu sana.
Thank you so
Double
much for
A, and we'll have you introduce yourself and tell us what you do with yourself.
Yes.
Even as we get into this discussion.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm sure your expertise will enrich this discussion tonight. Karibu sana. An introduction of yourself will do for now.
Thank you for having me. As you say, the double A, my name is Arcadius Anubi. I keep saying I'm a product of God's grace.
Wow.
He's blessed me in many ways, and
Amen.
for that I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Happily married for the last 19 years. I think that has been one of God's greatest blessings to me.
Yes.
And we also have 3 sons,
Yes.
3 boys. Who keep us active, and
Yes.
because of that, that's why I need to farm. Yeah, because they have a good appetite.
Yes.
Aside from that, I'm passionate about youth mentorship. Yes, it is something that I'm very passionate about,
Yes.
and that's a story for another day. But I'm also a farmer, like
Yes.
you rightfully say.
Yes.
I'm here to share my story and some of the experiences that I've had for the last 12 years.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. To God be the glory.
Thank you so much.
Married for 19 years. You are a father of 3 boys.
Yes.
And they keep you active. You're a farmer. You do youth mentorship.
Yes.
That is quite something full in a plate. And I can tell you it only takes God's grace for one like you to get to that level.
Yes.
Yes, and most welcome to the show. Today I'm trying to smile broadly.
Yes.
Yesterday I had a meeting with a few of my high school classmates.
Interesting.
And one of them remarked, you're doing a splendid job on Occupy Today, but
Yes.
try to smile more. So when you see me smiling broadly,
I should join you.
yes, you should join me in
Yes, yes,
smiling.
yes.
I'm glad you get the cue.
Yes, yes.
Lovely, lovely. So most welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Occupy Today.
Yes.
It's exciting to host people like you
Yes.
who are doing amazing things out there, and who through their stories as well as through your knowledge sharing,
Yes.
we can enrich the kingdom of God with insight, with knowledge, and with wisdom that helps entrepreneurs grow and do better in their thing.
Yes.
So most welcome on Occupy Today. As we discuss this topic, and you can say it, you say it even better than I do.
Yes, I say farming, every seed has a story.
Every seed has a story.
Every seed has a story.
Indeed.
And I'm hoping to share some of those stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, and I think I just want to hear more about what seeds are these that you work with and
Yes.
what stories are these they talk about.
Yes.
Do they stand up and say, here I am, this is what I will do and all?
Yes.
So yes, tell us. I know that you're running an organization called Providence Agriculture.
Yes.
What does it do? Where did you begin? What have you been doing? And yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so it is true. We are running an organization that's called Providence Agriculture. And I've been at it, call it for the last 12 years. Now this story, let's start with the first story because we're here to talk about seeds and stories. So about 12 years ago, a friend had a plot of land that he had bought somewhere
Yes.
near called Karakon.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, we were still young and naive.
Yes.
Yeah, but we decided to start a greenhouse. And we decided to just grow things that we would sell in our local neighborhood, local Manangoka or just the kiosk.
Yes.
But when we planted this, in fact, our very first crop was hoho, or what we call green capsicums.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and I remember as they grew, something very interesting, because prior to that, when I used to buy capsicums, they used to be very tiny. In fact,
Yes.
I remember they used to be 5 shillings for a very small piece.
Ah.
Yeah, but as we watched what was growing, we realized that each capsicum, we actually needed to hold both hands.
It was big.
It was big.
Wow.
And that's when I actually got to learn that even when people take things to the market, they're segmented differently, because there are those that we will export, there are those that we might probably take to certain areas in Nairobi,
Yeah.
and then there are those very small ones that are the ones that make way to our shops.
Yeah.
But even as we were interacting with other farmers, somebody told us, no, there are some other people who you could supply. At the time, there was and they're still there, called Zucchini at ABC Place.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, there was also the previously where Taj Mahal was, Fresh and Juicy used to be there, although they've since moved to Limuru.
Uh-huh.
So somebody advised, instead of taking these crops back home, try those people. And sure enough, I remember the very first crop, I took it to a BC Place.
Yes.
And it just so happens that at the time they had a shortage of these green capsicums.
Wow.
So they were so excited to see us, and our produce was looking good.
Yes.
And so we were moved to the front of the line. I remember this was
Wow.
at about 6:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And they were so excited, and they told us, I hope you can supply this the next week. They need them 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And therein came my first lesson, because
Yes.
the manner in which we had planted these capsicums, we planted just at once, and we had harvested all of them. We didn't have any more left
Oh my
to
goodness.
supply the next week.
Yeah.
So that was my first lesson, and
Yeah.
the story was that even when we are planting things, you need to space them
Yes.
so that you can be able to sustain
your
the
supply throughout.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So as time was going, and now we were trying to plant new things, and somebody told us, look here, government institutions and schools, public schools, when
Yes.
you look at the newspaper at the back, there are usually tenders around October.
Yes.
Go and look at those, because if you can manage to get 1 or 2 schools
Yeah.
and get a tender, then you'd be in business.
Yes.
And so we started going around schools.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I have this memory of a school that we went to. I think it was Nairobi School.
Yes.
And we were waiting for the tender box to be open. And it so happens I was sitting next to a young man. And he was about 26 years old at the time. And so as we were waiting for the event to begin, we were told to talk to our neighbors.
Yes.
And so he asked me what I do. I told him we had just gotten into this space and we had
Yes.
started supplying vegetables.
Yes.
He told me, and remember, this boy was 26 years
And
old.
how old were you?
At the time, can I actually? But I knew I was older than him.
Of
So I
course,
think
yeah.
he was around 35 at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So he tells me that he's the one who's been supplying that school and about 4 or 5 others.
Yeah.
And aside from that, he also used to supply small guest houses.
Oh.
Now, I remember wanting to listen to his story a bit more,
Yes,
because
of
he's one of the
course.
person that really sparked this desire of farming in me.
Yeah.
And he told me that he stays in Limuru. His parents had given him about a quarter or half an acre.
Yes.
And at the time we were talking, he had about 350 kienyeji chicken. And so this young man goes ahead to tell me something that blew my mind.
Yes.
Because he told me this kienyeji chicken were like an emergency fund for him.
Oh.
Because of the demand of kienyeji chicken, he could sell them at any time, and at least at 1,000 shillings per chicken. So that meant he had about 350,000 shillings
Definitely.
seated there.
Yes.
So he told me the chicken that he had, the kienyeji eggs also that people like, people would always come knocking at the door.
Yes.
And so they would sell between 1,000 and 2,000 shillings worth of eggs every day. So that money that he would
Wow.
receive, he would give his wife for the daily needs
Yes.
at home. Then that
Yes.
was also the emergency fund should they need to sell the chicken.
Yeah.
And he had graduated into some dairy cow. He had, I think at the time, about 5 or 6 dairy cow that he was telling me were giving him about 80 to 100,000 in a month. And he told
Wow.
me that was his school fees fund.
Yes.
So I was, just with those figures already, I was shocked. Remember,
Yes.
we've not even come to the tenders of supplying the schools
Yeah.
and the small guest houses. And so
Wow.
he told me the schools and the guest houses, he
Yes.
was trying to buy some land in Kamulu and Ruai to construct something.
Yes.
At 26 years old, I wondered, what had I been doing with
I
my life?
know. I know.
So fast forward, of course, we did not unfortunately get the tender there because unfortunately the way Kenya is, in fact, I remember going to a school where a watchman laughed and he told us, you don't start tenders here, you go and look for the procurement person's home and you start that discussion. So he
and
thought
this
we
is
were
the
very
watchman.
naive.
This is the watchman telling you.
The watchmen at the schools would laugh when we would go there because they would say, you people must really be new.
I know.
Because this is nowhere that process starts.
Yes.
But as fate would have it, I've just told you I'm a product of God's grace.
Yes.
There's a day a lady asks us for a lift. We were just driving towards Karen.
Yes.
She gets into the vehicle, we introduce ourselves, and she says she's a teacher at Hillcrest.
Yes.
And she asks us what we do, and then we say, I was with my friend.
Yeah.
She tells us, by the way, they are looking for someone to supply fruits and vegetables.
Wow.
And she gives us the contact to their purchasing officer, and we go there. Long story short,
Yeah.
we end up supplying this school for a year.
Wow.
So we had graduated from the kiosk that we wanted
Yes,
now
to the
zucchini, and now
school.
we still got the school. And
Yes.
with this school came a new experience.
Yeah.
Because this school had a list of about 2 full scraps of different things they wanted twice a week. There were things like radishes we didn't even know what they looked like at the time.
Of course, now you had to go and discover other
So
vegetables.
the lesson in this that we also learned was because we could also not grow everything that
Yes.
was on that list. So we
Uh-huh.
had to collaborate with other farmers, but we also had to go to where
Ah.
some of these things were stocked.
Say that again, the collaboration bit. I want to hear that again.
We realized that we cannot grow these things alone.
Yes.
We cannot even meet this consistent supply. And so that's when
Definitely.
we realized the need for collaboration with other
Yes.
farmers and to also get to know other sources so as to be able
Wow.
to sustain that sort of tender for
Yeah.
the whole year. And so that began another lesson because we used to wake up to go to Marikiti at 3 or 4 in the morning so that
Yes.
we'd get to know where things that we didn't have were supplied from. For
Yes.
the radishes and the like, we had to go to City Park Market. And then we used to
Wow.
converge at a forest somewhere near Karen to kind of assemble these things and package them.
A forest.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yes, and we needed to be there on time
Yeah.
with all the produce that was there, and they would have to look through it.
Yeah.
So that was another very interesting lesson because
Yeah.
we had kind of grown. So of course, as we were going on in this journey,
Yes.
we would post some of the things that we were doing on social media. And this
Ah.
attracted some friends. So friends kept asking, are you guys farming? And at the time, we didn't look at ourselves as serious farmers. But as
Yes.
it kept going on,
By the way, you keep saying we.
yes, me
Who
and
are
my
we?
friends.
Oh, it is
You
you,
remember I
and
told you
your
this
friend.
journey began as a friend. So this
Yes.
was at the very beginning.
That friend that had the quarter acre
The friend
in,
that had the
in
quarter acre,
Kerala
yes. So
Point.
that's where our journey began, and it kept growing.
Yes.
And so now we were in a new dimension,
Yeah.
learning new things and
Yes.
also growing in the process.
Uh-huh.
And so when we realized these inquiries that were coming in from friends,
Yes.
we could not now be buying coffee for everyone and explaining this thing.
No.
So it gave rise to a new idea.
Yeah.
Because at the time, through the collaboration, we had already engaged other farmers. And there was a farm, particularly in Kitengela, where we also used to get some produce, and it was a well-organized farm. So we approached the owner and we asked whether we could use that farm and the space that was there for trainings.
Wow.
So that we could assemble our friends.
and do demos there.
And do demos there, but we
Wow.
could also bring other service providers who we had also engaged with, and so we would have agrovets that would also present issues, related issues to do with chemicals. Those who are constructing greenhouses and also share our experience.
Yes.
Now the uptake amazed us. In fact, at some point we used to have to cap those numbers at 30, and we were doing this monthly.
How many were coming?
So the inquiries, we could even get up to 60 or even 80 at a time. And
Wow.
of course, that hall could not hold that number of people.
Yes.
So we decided to cap these numbers at 30 coming in for these trainings. And
Yeah.
that ensured that every month we could have
You had
training,
a training.
and we were charging for this training. So now we had grown. Here we
Whoa.
were supplying institutions.
Yes.
But now we were also having another income source from the trainings that we were having.
Definitely.
In Kitengela.
Wait. So what were you training them on?
So we were training them on how to use their land because most of our peers at the time, including ourselves, people were buying land for speculation or to build a house in future. But they had already seen some movement, having followed us from where we began. They started
Yes.
taking interest.
I
And now
see.
people had started discussing farming. So we were sharing our experience based on our own personal story. But we also wanted to rope in other people that would help provide services that would support them.
Yes.
And so that's how we all came together, and then we were also it was a full day where we would also provide meals. And what
Yeah.
was really striking about this experience, other people were doing it, but in
Yes.
boardrooms. We were amongst the first who were having that farm
Within a
experience.
farm.
Yes, and
Within
so
a
we'd walk around the farm,
Yes.
and we'd be able to actually ask questions. And
Demonstrate.
yes,
Yes. Wow.
yes.
I'm really hoping that you're here with us, my dear viewers, and you can hear this amazing story as it shapes. Because let me tell you, nothing good comes easy. Number one, I'm seeing, but also the amazing, amazing value of collaborations.
Yes.
You know, I'm hearing you say collaborations, knowing
Yes.
that you can't do it alone. Someone else will do the radishes, you will do the capsicum, another one will
Yes.
do this. But also the fact that as you begin, your path is not straight.
It is not straight.
Yeah,
You
you're
discover
beginning
it
at
as you go.
Kerarapon, but it's taking shape as you grow. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. So keep your questions and your comments coming. We'll be able to deal with them as we move on. Akidias is here, and I can tell you he's a powerhouse, so we'll be able to deal with those. Yes. Please keep them coming. Yes.
So as we kept going on with these trainings, remember I told you it was mainly friends. And
Yes.
then later friends of friends.
Yes.
But it dawned on us we would run out of this pool of friends.
Yeah.
We had not seen this opportunity, but we realized there was a huge need.
Yes.
So we started asking ourselves which other group would sustain this for a much longer period. And then we had that aha type of moment.
Yes, yes,
Because we
yes.
remembered the people that are buying large tracts of land are mainly SACCOs and cooperatives. And so we decided to write letters to these SACCOs and cooperatives to see whether we could interest them in farming and kind of their members especially. So we'd kind of bring their members for this sort of trainings.
Yes.
So that we could probably, so there's one that we targeted, I remember, that had like 3,000 members. So we were thinking to ourselves, 3,000 divided by 12 months, for example, we would be covered.
I
And-
tell you.
Yes, and so as fate would have it,
Yeah.
one of these large cooperatives calls us.
Yeah.
Says, we saw your letter.
Uh-huh.
We've been seeing some of the things that you're posting online.
Uh-huh.
And by coincidence, they've been thinking about moving into this agribusiness space.
Uh-huh.
And so we pitch. I mean, we tell them we had this idea of training. Then they tell us training was not quite what they had in mind.
Uh-huh.
Because they have vast tracts of land, but they would actually wish to get into the actual farming space.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, they would have dismissed us and said maybe we were not the right people.
Yes.
But they told us to go and come back after about 4 days with 3 ideas.
Yes.
Almost like the way there's this popular program called Shark Tank.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
So that you pitch your
So that we
ideas
pitch
to
our
them.
ideas.
We look at your business model and see
Exactly.
whether it's something that can give us
True.
Uh-huh.
So they said, you're young men, and it's like you probably have a vision for 10 or 15 years of things that you want to do, and maybe you're limited by resources.
I hear you.
Yeah, so come back and share your dreams, and let's get to see if it's something that we can kind of work,
Yeah.
collaborate again.
Yes.
So we left there shocked at what had happened.
Uh-huh.
They had opened up our eyes to something that was totally different, and this
Wow.
was again a new opportunity for growth.
Yes.
And so we came back, just
Uh-huh.
a few ideas, but one in particular excited them because we called it an agribusiness gated community.
An agribusiness gated community. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thinking behind it, and I stay in a gated community
Yes.
somewhere in Embakasi, and we were thinking because there are standard services and the houses look and the management is done in a standard way.
Yes.
And so what we were pitching at the time, they were just selling land,
Yeah.
but we wanted this as a value add to that
To
land.
the gated
gated
community.
community.
Yes.
And so our idea was that we would split the land in half acres and 1 acre plots.
Yes.
And then we would set it up in such a way that there was water, there was a greenhouse, there were drips, and we'd even go a step further and manage this for them and source for markets.
Wow.
So they really loved this idea, and they decided to split it into 2. So they would have land that they would sell as value add ready for agriculture,
Yes.
but they also wanted us now to practice farming on 50 acres of land.
Yeah.
And at the time, we had already established a lot of contacts with some people who are also exporting.
Yes.
And so it was a win-win.
Definitely, yes.
And then
yeah.
they took this a step further because at the time we were trading under name.
I hope they were going to fund this.
Yes, they were going to fundraise,
Wow.
and as we were still trying to take it in,
Yes.
they even came up with a different proposal, and they asked us what name we were trading under.
Yes.
And they said instead of us working as you, or them and us, why can they buy shares? And so we need to go and value what we were doing, and then come back with a
yes.
valuation. That was a very
Oh
strange
my
term for
goodness.
us.
Yes, of course.
Because what is our value really?
Ah,
Is it the shoes that I'm wearing?
I
Is it the
know.
small piece of land
Oh
that
my
was there?
goodness. Do you know your value? What is your business valued
Exactly.
for? Your small business, your big business, do you know its value? Somebody telling you that they want to acquire it or
Yes.
acquire a stake to it. How much value would you put into that? Yeah.
That question really put us through a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
Long story short, they ended up buying the value that was agreed upon. Then we
Yes.
merged and we became.
I hope you didn't undersell. You
Let's
wish
just
you
say
had.
we were happy because we
Great.
never came there expecting that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, remember our idea was just to train.
Yes.
Yes, and just keep that training
Ah,
thing going. But now they had
yes.
broadened our horizons because they created
Definitely.
a capacity in which we were now also able to service exporters
Yeah.
and
wow.
other larger markets which we could not have done on our own.
I hear you.
Yes, and now this was also growing us again into a new dimension because our experiences, initially though small, had led us to this moment, but now they were growing us almost to the next dimension.
Wow.
Yes, and
wow.
so from the trainings,
Wow.
it now gave rise to large-scale farming. if you like.
Yes.
Yes.
Whoa, whoa. Right from that half acre in Kerarapon
To supply
to
kiosks,
supplying
which was our
kiosks.
idea.
Oh my
And now we
goodness.
were planning for 50. Actually, it was 80 acres, but about 30 was to be sold, and we'd plant on 50.
On
For sure, we
50.
began.
You began.
Yes.
Is it still there or?
So, again, like we've
Of course,
said,
the
there's a
story
story.
continues. The story continues. But before we even go on, I am sure you have failed in that bit of your story, right from
Yes.
Kerarapon, and now that you're in partnership with these guys
Yes.
who are selling land to their members.
Yes.
There are lessons to be learned.
Yes.
There are failures there are moments of failure,
Yes.
but also there are moments of celebration because you did it. Would you want to share these ones with us?
So moments of failure, of course, again, just like with everything, when we were small, the failure moments were also small. And
Yes.
as we grew, unfortunately, the lessons, some were also that big. Like I told you, other than the school that we were supplying at the time, we were excited
Yes.
to be able to supply, but we also didn't have a lot of cash, and you need to maintain that cash flow.
Definitely.
And what we didn't realize was that some of these organizations can take even up to 3 or 4 months to pay.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and
yeah.
of course now that already started eating into our savings and
Yes.
many things, and it complicated things such that even after the first year,
Yeah.
we decided this was now not worth it because we were expecting payments, say, that would come in weekly and help us kind of grow. And so we were not established at the level where we really had a buffer that could probably keep us for 6 months.
I
or
wonder
more.
how you held that. Did
It
you
was
even
really
have a
tough.
financial partner that would have been able to eject something
We
into
didn't
it?
have
You didn't
any
have.
financial, like I told you, we
Yeah.
were just people who were starting out. We
Yeah.
had not probably understood the scope of what we were getting into at
Yeah,
the time. But we
yeah.
also felt disappointed because I told you we would be in forests trying to put things together, waking up at 3 in the morning to try and source for different things. But when we'd kind of be going to claim our monies and things like those,
They're not willing
they
to.
were also not willing. And so
Yeah.
that was a tough lesson. The only thing it added to our CV was that we had been able to supply some of these big
Yeah.
organizations.
Yeah, if you were to redo that again,
Yes.
what would it mean for you in terms of putting a reservoir or having relationships that would eject some money? What would that look like now?
So I think as we were trading at the beginning, well, it would involve putting some money aside to kind of cater for this unforeseen circumstances. Yes, also having probably spoken to a friend who was able to invest in the business so as to create that sort of buffer. We would have renegotiated terms or at least been clear so that we would know whether it was something that we were willing to get into or see if they could also adjust some of their systems to accommodate us.
I hear you.
Yes.
And I also know that there are financial institutions that would be willing to partner with you in that journey and give you an overdraft or something like that.
At the time that we started, no. But later, as we've proceeded, of course, things have kept changing. This has also been an emerging market, and people have started understanding it. Because at the beginning, most people deemed it as a very risky venture.
Definitely,
Even now, a
yeah.
number of people still do.
Yeah.
And sadly, even with this cooperative, as we went into some of the systems, they could be systems that work well for an organization, but
Yes.
not necessarily to a farm.
Yes.
Yeah, so for example, if you have a check that is being signed that has a turnaround time of 2 weeks, and I need
Yes.
inputs today.
Oh yes, oh yes,
and
oh
that
yes.
was a big challenge. And at the time, we were also irrigating using a generator, which actually meant that you needed money every day.
Every day to
Yes.
run your
And
generator.
when the generator does not run, then it means you're not irrigating the crops. When the crops are not irrigating, then it means there's also loss. Yeah, so, and then, of course, you also get into some sort of scoreboards because it means that we're also not achieving some of the targets.
I hear
and it's
you.
basically because the system has not been made to work. So those were some major challenges that we now started encountering.
Yeah.
But there were also lessons. Yeah, because
Definitely.
initially there was just this excitement of doing large things, but
Yeah.
large things also come
Yeah, yeah.
large
With their
challenges.
large challenges,
Yes.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, and I'm hoping that, my dear viewers, you are taking in a lesson or two and you are challenged that, where your journey begins is not where it ends. And as is with Arcadia's business, he even hasn't gotten to where he is right now, and we'll be hearing some more even as we go on. And I can tell you, there is a lot to learn, but only be there and do it, because I think we end up giving up. Sometimes we end up not wanting to take in the lessons or allow nature or God himself to show us the way, even as we lead our lives in business, because where you begin is not where you end. Oftentimes you think you have a whole idea well cooked and well planned, but wait until you see the dynamics in the market. They keep changing, they keep moving forward, and you need to allow yourself to take in these lessons, to build collaborations that will work, to learn from the challenges that you're having, just like Arcadia's is sharing this evening. So as we move on, Arcadia's, I know there is where you are, but even before we get there, from that story, did it take a long time? Did it take a short time? And if you were to do it again, would you welcome the path that it took, or would you hold back and still shikilia where you first began?
In retrospect, there's many things we would have done differently.
Uh-huh.
I think to begin with, we were also ambitious. At the time, we were doing a crop called French beans,
Uh-huh.
which is fairly, a number of people engage in it, but we were doing 25 acres of French beans,
Whoa.
which anybody who knows the work that it takes to kind of grow and harvest and tend to French beans, 25 acres is crazy.
Yes, wow.
Yes, so of
Yeah.
course it was an ambition. I think we were over ambitious, so to
Yes.
speak.
Uh-huh.
And then we also had water challenges. So in retrospect, the first thing that I'd have done differently is that we would probably have grown a smaller area of the French bean crop, probably
Yeah.
also combine it with different crops. We probably have also started to negotiate for a different system outside of what they use during their normal office operations. Because the challenge is not just even in the crops, it means also the workers are probably not being paid on time. It also means that because in farming, and this is what I keep telling people, we work backwards. So you
Yeah.
don't just put a seed to the ground. You first go and engage the market, get
Yes.
to know what they want, get to know if there is actually in fact,
The need?
the need.
Yeah.
And that need, how big is it? How many are they?
Wow.
So then you work backwards to the capacity.
That's
that you
quite
have.
profound.
Yes, but
because most
do the
people will
opposite.
do the
Yes. In
opposite.
fact, I once met a lady who came to consult, and she was saying she had grown 5 acres of ginger, and she didn't know. So I asked her, "Why did you grow 5
Was
acres
she
of
growing
ginger?"
it in Kenya?
Yes, she was growing it somewhere in Isinya.
And it was doing well.
It was doing well, but the doing well was not the problem.
Yeah.
Like we said, you work backwards. So I
Backwards,
asked her,
you go to the
what
market.
informed you? Why did you
Yeah.
decide on 5 acres of
Yeah.
ginger? She says she loves ginger as a
Yeah,
person.
I know.
So
I would
was
do
like,
that.
you
I love
cannot do
ginger.
that. You
Yeah.
cannot grow. In fact, I was
Uh-huh.
likening it to a DJ at a function who wants to play the music he
It's-
likes, and not the audience.
Not the
Yes,
audience, I
first you
know.
go to the audience.
Yes,
this
and
case,
ask
the
what you
market.
want.
Yes.
What sort of
But you see,
music?
the challenge with that is that when you're working backwards like we were, is
Yeah.
that you've also made certain promises to them.
Uh-huh.
And they also have what we call a production schedule
Yes.
for themselves.
Yeah.
So when you're letting them down, or when that crop is not coming because of the challenges that I've mentioned,
Then you've lost.
you've lost it. And not
Yeah.
just that, you're also ruining your reputation.
Indeed,
as a person. Yes,
indeed,
because you become
indeed.
someone that people cannot
Cannot rely on, and when you're not dependable in
Yes.
business, then you're losing it to, you know.
That was actually critical because I think at that point when we realized that we were also losing a reputation, even at a personal level, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, people know you.
Yeah.
They don't know this amorphous body
No, of
that
course
you're
they
talking
don't.
about.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was a danger to me because even if I was in a different outfit or doing something differently, that tag would still be there that this person is not reliable.
Yeah.
Yes, and so at that point is when we kind of now chose to see if we could go and do something on our own.
Wow. Wow, amazing, amazing lessons you have learned. Arcadias, one of the things I'm picking, and I think I also picked this from our last conversation with my guest last week,
Yes.
is that you don't start by planting and then you go and look for the market.
Yes.
You actually go to the market, check whether there is a need,
Yes.
and work backwards
Exactly.
to satisfying this need.
Correct.
Isn't it the same case with all businesses? You don't start producing a product just because
Yes.
you love it.
No.
Like you're saying of the ginger lady just
Yes,
because she loves
yes.
it. I probably would do the same because I love ginger. But you go check the market and see how big is the need. And then you know what to plant.
Correct.
And you do it.
Yes.
But also, secondly, I think I love the value of collaborations and just working together with other people.
Yes.
I mean, this one happens in every part of your conversation as
True.
you go on. And this is something that you need to build on partnerships, build on people and connections that will be able to grow you to the next level. And thirdly, what you have just said is that before people buy your product, they actually buy you. Yeah?
Correct.
Before they buy your product, they
Yes.
actually buy you. So for you, you had to be a very reliable person that I promised I'll bring capsicum
Yes, yes,
within
on
2
this day.
days. They had to buy you first before they
Correct.
could be able to trust your capsicum. So my dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen, we take a break at this level. Thank you for keeping it right there. Allow us to just breathe in, breathe out, even as you do the same. Kindly take your glass of water, sit back, and then come back in a few minutes as we take a break, and we will continue with our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing Hope TV, the channel that brings you hope, entertainment, and inspiration. We value you and would like to serve you better. Talk to us by scanning this QR code on your screen or go to our social media page at Hope TV Kenya and click on the survey link by the name Hope TV Survey. It will just take a few minutes but means the world to us. We value your feedback. Hope TV, look and live.
Wewe ni Mungu usiyelala, na ibada yangu nakupa wewe Bwana.
To get Wewe ni Mungu by Evelyn Wanjiru as your Skiza tune, SMS the word Skiza 88300028 and send to 811. Hope Skiza, spreading the hope.
Sijaona kama wewe, umepigana vita zangu. Nakupa ibada ya moyo wangu usiku wa leo.
I've actually been trying to find a balance. It's been really tough and hectic, but everyone says once you get a hang of it, it becomes better. And I don't know, but I'm hoping to find a balance soon because it's really been hectic. But you've been in the job industry for a long time, so I think you would know better. Cindy.
Huh? What time is it? I need to catch up on Leadership Forum. Do they have a radio here? Never mind. I brought my own.
No way. You can't be serious. Wait, why do you have a radio and you can just catch up with the shows on Hope FM podcast?
Really? Even Meet of the World?
I mean, you can find them on whatever platform, name it. AfriPods, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it.
But I'm not subscribed on any of them.
So no worries. You can just check out the latest episodes on hopemediakenya.org.
You can now listen to select Hope FM programs on your favorite podcast streaming platform or directly on our website, www.hopemediakenya.org. Listen and live.
Keeping it right there. And thank you for being with us in this program today. For those of you who may have just joined, we are looking at farming where every seed has a story or is a story. I mean, it's a story and has a story. And I can tell you, you will realize that, in fact, I'm amazed. You know, I have a garden, Arcadias, and I've realized that when you grow a seed of hoho here and another one there, they grow differently. They shape up differently. The many leaves one has is different from the other. So indeed, every seed has a story.
Correct.
True fact. Now, I have Arcadius Anubi in studio tonight, and I can tell you he's a powerhouse. He's providing support to farmers, and he himself is a farmer. He's a friend of the young people, and the things that he's doing out here is amazing. He runs a company called Providence Agriculture, and I am sure there is a lot to learn from him, and especially those of you who are farmers, but also those of you who are looking forward to being farmers. Now, as we discuss how your business has shaped up Arcadias, I would love to learn from you or to hear from you. What are some of the opportunities you have seen that are still untapped? And you can tell us how the business has shaped up, and then you can go into the opportunities that you have seen that are quite untapped, because when talking to business people, this is where the rubber meets the road. We want to see, where can I patch myself? What can I do with what I have? Yeah.
So we've got to the point where we've now left. In the process, we've now grown. What
Yes.
this has done is that it's exposed us to large-scale farming. It
Yeah.
has exposed us to bigger markets.
Yeah.
And it has also improved our skill. We've networked and collaborated with various people, not
Yes.
just in the supply of crops, but also in other services. We are now able to set up water towers. We
Wow.
are now able to...
What are water towers?
Oh, is this a water tank? Fancy name.
The elevated water tank.
And then drip irrigation, sprinklers. So we've been learning that all through, how to set them up and water needs for different crops. We've gone ahead. We are now able to manage large numbers of casuals, for example. So our skill set has
Evolved over time, yeah.
So we are now confident to be able to take on bigger projects.
Yeah.
Yes, and so what this has allowed us to do, even as Providence, support to end. Because it means right from actually clearing your land, because most people, at least from my experience, either don't have the time, don't have the know-how. A number of people are not even in the country. And so they have land that is just lying idle, but they're looking for someone they can trust or someone with the know-how to be able to establish this farm, to be able to manage it, and most importantly, because it's a challenge most people have, to source for market.
Wow.
And that's where we come in, because we are able to provide support right from the word go. And the way I look at it is this: we try and promote good agricultural practices. So you come to me, Susan, and you say, I have some land. So some questions come in, because I will ask you, is there water? Because I keep telling people, we can work around everything else. You can fence in a different way, you can irrigate using a different type of system, but there is no alternative to water. We still have to be incidental. You can even grow food.
Oh,
So soil is not really
it's not the main thing.
Water is the main thing. So
Yes.
we start from there. So it would be like, do we have water? Other than water, what is our energy source? Because how will we pump this water? Then we come to land. Remember, we are talking about agribusiness.
Yes.
You need to make money from what you're doing. So the way we did it in the past, even with the seeds that we would just collect at home, that's not how we do it today.
Yes.
We need what we call certified seeds
Yes.
in order to kind of have better production.
Yes.
Yeah, so we now come to the land. And with land, we divide it into blocks. Yeah, because in these blocks, you're able to trace or to gauge or to project this block or this acre is likely to give us.
Just hold it right there. And I am picking it from where you are talking about your your customer, your target market. Before we go on, and I'm seeing I will lose this. This is why I need to just come in and take it right here. Your target person could be this person who's abroad.
Yes.
Could be this person who has no time and they are here.
Yes.
Could be so you do it. I hear you doing it end to end.
Yes.
So they have the land.
Yes.
And of course, you've highlighted the need for water. Water is very, very critical. There is water there. So you take it up.
Yes.
And you're able to do every structure that is needed.
Correct.
You're able to do, what did you call the tanks
water
again?
tower.
The water towers. And you're able to do everything for them.
Yes.
And then you're able to do the crop.
Yes.
The choice of crop, is it you? Is it them?
So the choice of crop is determined by various things. There are crops that do better in a certain region. There are crops that get, let me give an example. Like I tell people in Isinya and Kitengela, for example, you have a labor force there. Like remember the French beans I mentioned? It's somewhat of a technical skill in the manner that they're harvested. And the people in that region in terms of labor know how to do it. But there's also a lot of, say, trucks that will go and collect. So you benefit from that transport.
I
So
see.
immediately a zone or a region like that becomes favorable for such a crop. Yeah, so there are two ways you go. So yes, sometimes somebody already has, say, market for a certain crop, but again, the region in which you have your land, we also need to assess, would this crop do well?
So there's a lot of exchange
Yes.
between you and
Correct.
the owner
Yes.
to be able to even advise them what is
Yes.
the crop and how,
Yes.
how do you
Yes.
go about it. Wow.
Something maybe just to add on that I also tell people, sometimes people want to start big, you want
Yes.
to do export, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we always say start small. And what I tell people, I've done projects, say like in Western or somewhere, instead of hustling to get that produce here to Nairobi, let's go visit the market in your neighborhood. Let's
Yeah.
get to understand what are their needs, what are they able to consume weekly. Can we work with that existing market that is there? So don't make assumptions, or just because your neighbor is growing something, you feel you'll also grow it.
I
You do not
see.
know what their story is.
Yeah.
So these assumptions that people make, it's again, just like we said, we work backwards.
Yes.
Yeah, so first you're kind of
You-
getting to assess,
Yes, the need.
yes, the need, or where is this going to be supplied? Is it an
Yes.
export crop? Should we jump there? Or first let's start with what we can locally, and will it do well in this region?
Yeah.
So those are some of the things. Then again, we also advise, don't do too many. Again, depending on the size of a land, do 2, maximum 4 crops. Again, also take into consideration something we call crop rotation.
Yeah.
So that you're able to utilize the land effectively.
I see.
So that's where some of our consultancy and the advice that we give, even as we are trying to think through the project, so that you're not just growing ginger because
I
you like
see.
it.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I told you I can fall victim of that.
Correct.
Yeah, so your name?
Arcadius.
Arcadius. A&A Arcadius. People have, there's this narrative that, you know what, agriculture is not my thing. I tried
Yes, yes.
and failed. I have friends, I have family, I have people who, agriculture is not my thing.
Yes.
I will either lease out the land to
Yes.
someone else. I'd
True.
rather just not be associated with it because I tried
Yes.
and failed.
Yes.
I don't know. Why don't people want to venture in this? Though I've seen young people really taking it up.
Yes.
But still, there are people who just do not want to be found in that space.
Yes.
Why is this so?
A number of things come to mind. The first one is perception. And perception is almost in 2 ways. So there's perception where we grew up thinking agriculture is a backward thing, or for failures, or for old people. So there are those who feel, not for me, maybe when I'm about to retire.
Yeah.
Then I've also now gone to the very youth that you're saying, when I'm making a presentation, they will laugh when you say you're in agriculture. Or I have friends when we were starting out who would ask, and what else do you do?
Because agriculture,
Yes,
you have
because
something else
it
that
looks
you do.
it's lowly, or is that the only thing that you do? That's what most people are going to ask. So you can already see that we have a negative perception
Yes.
of agriculture. A new negative perception that has been created in recent months or years is that there's this get-rich quick thing that Kenyans love.
I know.
So there were promises in the next 3 months or 6 months you'll be a millionaire.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
many people jumped into these agricultural projects because they knew in 6 months, and of course that didn't happen.
And then the rains failed
In a
them.
big, not even the rains, because some of the things were not, they were enticing, because people are kind of told what they want to hear. And so what I tell people when they come, the truth is, it's not magic. It is hard work like anything else. In fact, I keep telling people, anything else, whether you're studying, you're in school. I don't know even about your job. Everything has challenges.
Definitely.
So I feel people sometimes are usually very unfair to agriculture. Yeah, so they expect that if I plant things today, in
has
6
to.
months, it will return millions. But remember, you've invested.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are variables sometimes that happen here and there. So don't give up. So most people give up easily because they had this unrealistic expectation of very high returns within a very
And
short
one
period
of those
time.
that you taught me at the beginning of this is the rains.
Exactly.
We assume that the rains are
The
"Woo,
weather. You
Here
can
we
see.
are.
Yeah, because we have erratic weather patterns these
Yes,
days. In
yes.
the past, we could easily plan.
Yeah.
So like I was just giving you the example of onions. If
Yes.
anybody has been monitoring, you've seen how
Oh
the
my.
prices just keep skyrocketing. And I was
Yeah.
telling you that rains, yes, they're a friend to the farmer, but depending on the time that they come, they
I
can
know.
also cause a lot of havoc to our
Havoc,
roads.
yeah.
Sometimes you want the crop to dry, like the onions we are talking about, or like the
Yes.
garlic or the ginger that
I
we are talking
know,
about, and then
yeah.
it starts raining, and then there are losses.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
unfortunately, I don't know if you've been following a story, even lately, we have a lot of counterfeit inputs, for example.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, so sometimes what I tell people, in fact, whenever someone tells me they try to plant something and it failed, I always ask, did you get to know the reason? Because the reasons are different. Sometimes it's the labor that
Yeah.
you chose. Sometimes you bought the wrong seeds. They were not certified. Sometimes maybe it's these fake inputs that you bought that did not. Sometimes so kind of drill down and get to understand what challenge did I face, and is
I
it
know.
something that is surmountable? So most
Yeah.
people are just quick to throw their hands up
Yeah.
and say agriculture never again, but they don't want to pick that lesson, like you
Yeah.
were saying, from this seed that we planted.
Yes, yes.
What went wrong with this
I
seed? I was
know.
expecting this. Remember when I
Yes.
told you we also go to blocks? You're able to drill down and say, this block performed better than this one. So you can now kind of narrow down and get to see, because at the end of the day, it's not just how much you sell per kilo.
Yeah.
You're actually able to know this area, how many pieces or how many kilos did this area produce, because that is actually what you want. That's what will get you money.
I hear you.
Yes, because you can get even 100, 200 shillings on something, but it's just one item.
It's one
But are you
item.
able to monitor the farm in such a way that you can actually trace that this, in fact, in developed countries, they can even trace it down to a crop, to get to know that this
Wow.
crop did not perform as why.
Yeah.
So get to understand the why first, and
I
then is that
know.
something that we can surmount? But most
Yeah.
people give up
Yeah.
too soon,
Yeah.
or use the wrong. Of course, we love taking shortcuts also.
Yes.
Yeah. So most people will go for cheaper things, or they don't want to actually do things right.
Wow.
Yes.
Indeed, every seed has its story, right?
Correct.
Because if and I love it when you say, go back and see this portion. I don't know what you're calling them. Are you calling them portions of
I call
land
them
or-
blocks, yes. So,
Blocks,
yes.
yes. This block did better. So
Yes,
what's the
yes. So
story?
you should be able
What
to
is
trace.
it that
yes.
I gave it
Yes.
that I did
Why
not
did
give
this
the other one?
outperform the other one? Why
Yes.
didn't this? So you kind of
Yes.
can go back to that seed,
And
because
see.
for every seed, when you also get, by the way, project
Yes.
to get to know what sort of harvest are we expecting, and so when
Yeah.
it falls short,
Yes.
the question is why.
Yeah. And right there is the story of that seed,
Yes.
isn't it? Lovely, lovely, lovely. And time runs out very fast when you're talking the
Already?
things you love. Imagine. So before you do your parting shot, I'd like you to tell us. I know you've mentioned one or two opportunities here, there.
Yes.
But you could mention where the opportunities are.
Correct.
But also speaking to the young people, because you deal with them.
Yes.
What do they need to do to align
Yes.
and to be in this space where opportunities are there coming out every other day,
Yes.
so that they can excel in agri
Yes.
business? Yes, those two, and then you do your parting shit.
Okay. So the first is obvious, in the sense that we have a growing population. I told you we have boys who like to eat, and so many other people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so in fact in Kenya, I think we're averaging almost 1 million every year in terms of our growth.
Yes.
And yet, if you look around, people are reducing land, just selling it for real estate, and so we are reducing the arable land, and yet we have more need.
Oh, yeah?
So you can already see there lies an opportunity.
An opportunity.
We have a
indeed.
youth. We have a huge youth bulge right now, and you're saying people say there are no jobs.
Yeah.
But in the agricultural value chain, and with the innovation that our young people have,
Yes.
most people just look at farming just as somebody digging with a hoe. But like we've said, we need geologists, we need agronomists, we need people who will be able to research for better inputs, better yield, mechanization. We are still falling way
Wow.
behind technology. How are
Yeah.
we kind of able to compare so many things? And these are things young people people are excited about, but nobody is able. When I was in school, we were told it was a backbone of our economy.
I know.
But it doesn't translate when you go into an education system, or nobody is really interesting these young people. I told you I do some mentorship program. And when we go to schools outside of Nairobi, I realize every young person has at least access to some land or some livestock, and none of them ever look at that as their means. Everybody wants to come to Nairobi, get this corner office, wear these suits, because nobody has told them that that can actually be a money maker, like the young man I told you who inspired my journey seated there. So I think the perception needs to change, because we have many youth who we do not know which jobs we are going to create for them, and yet in this value chain of agriculture, they could be absorbed just like that with various interests. We have climate change that we are talking about. We need them to really get it, because we have to eat, but how do we kind of make this, how are we able to grow food better? How can we increase the production of what we have? What else is it that we can grow? And not just for ourselves, because even countries outside there, Africa still has the largest arable space of land. How can we also produce for them? So how are we also positioning ourselves for that? And you see, the youth right now, we are lucky because we have so many tools at our disposal. Because when you go online, you can get a lot of information. You can go around some of these farms and just see what can I improve on. Value addition right now is a very big thing. So we also need to rope them in and get to know, how can I add value? Most things, when there's a glut, people throw things away, but we can have other ways of producing and preserving, or we can dry or even preserve. So those are some of the opportunities that exist, and they always keep growing, but nobody seems to be tapping into this.
Wow, a lot of education is needed in terms of these opportunities, because I know that if many people, if their eyes were to be open to where they can patch themselves along that value chain, Kenya will be a better place. And like you're saying, I don't know whether the narrative of agriculture is the backbone of our society.
It doesn't translate.
I tell you, do we still say the same anyway? Is it the same because it was very rich when we were growing up and we knew this is it? So that narrative just needs to come back with the oomph, and people know that there is a lot to be done, and there is something each and every one of us can do. Arcadias, our time is running out, my brother. I'd like you to do your parting shot so that we call it a day. Thank you.
I think mine is just to encourage anyone who's ventured or is thinking of venturing. Like I said, it's not magic. But two things that I keep telling people: if you can ensure consistency in what you're doing and the quality of what you produce, then you're on the right track. Because once you're consistent and you're producing the right quality, then you're actually, in the end, going to get the reward. I keep saying it just takes about 2 seasons at most to really just learn what works in the area. Yes, you will make some mistakes. That's inevitable in almost anything everyone does, but don't give up. Don't give up too soon. Just give it a chance, get to understand what the challenge is, and then adjust accordingly. But quality, consistency.
Very well. Great. You heard it from Arcadias Anubi at Providence agriculture, right?
On IG. It's Providence.
On IG agriculture. Please check him out, see what he's doing. And I can tell you there are opportunities, but I love the way he ends. Quality, consistency. What are you doing? Is it your chicken? Is it your capsicum? Is it your whatever it is that you're doing? Ensure that you're consistent and you're producing quality. But then again, for all of us, see where you can patch yourself in terms of your business, because the value chain is rich with opportunities that are coming up every other day, because things keep changing, and I'm sure none of us needs to remain the way we are, because we have all these opportunities that we can seize. So we come to the end of our show tonight. It's been amazing, it's been real, and we are excited to have had Arcadias in studio tonight. We're looking forward to next Sunday, same time, same place. And with that, I say, may the good Lord bless you. May He keep you well. And may you continue doing that which He has called you to do in the marketplace. For now, it is Kwaheri from us. See you next week.
Thank you.